Ladies and gentlemen, we have the decision of the jury, and according to Politico, John Durham has already won. Am I being a bit facetious? Of course. This was an article written about a week ago. And I'll talk about this article. No matter what the verdict is, no matter what the court decides, Durham has won. And this is a Politico article explaining exactly why. Perhaps not from my vantage point or your vantage point, perhaps from the viewpoint of somebody or from the viewpoint of a publication or a journalist or a political side that does not want to believe that Durham should even exist. So the fact that we've learned all of these revelations, all of these new pieces of information pertaining to Sussman having a badge at the... Why would an attorney who was paid by Clinton have a badge to just enter the Federal Bureau of Investigation or any government agency whenever he wanted to? I mean, that alone is very bizarre. Then you have the issue of the jury that might not actually believe Sussman lied to anyone because everyone at the Federal Bureau of Investigation was in on it. So hit subscribe to this channel, ladies and gentlemen. We have a lot to talk about. I have a very important segment on the stock market crash channel and the Bitcoin crash channel right after this. To my super chat, I can't do this without you, ladies and gentlemen. Your super chat is extremely important. Let me fix the audio. Let me try to fix I always have issues with, I have no clue why. There's always an issue with the audio. Your super chat is greatly appreciated, ladies and gentlemen. And I can't do this without you. So if you want to talk about the Durham probe, special counsel, the economy, any issue at all, via super chat, right next to, right below when you type in any message in the chat. There's a super chat there. Your support is greatly appreciated. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much via super chat. And let's get started. So the jury is deliberating. We will find out Tuesday, I think latest Wednesday, but I think Tuesday we'll find out. And I do not know whether it's going to be an acquittal or a conviction or a hung jury and then a mistrial, and then a retrial. I don't know. I cannot tell you. I cannot tell you if that's going to happen. I think that we have a situation where no matter what happens, there will be more indictments. We learned that Sussman lied, and we also learned that the FBI didn't care. That the Federal Bureau of Investigation was at that point, so utterly corrupt that they were going to allow a formality. So when an attorney hired by Clinton, Sandra, thank you. When an attorney hired by Clinton was tasked with funneling false information, like these are the conspiratorial theories that Democrats claim, these are the facts that Democrats claim are conspiratorial theories, okay? They paid attorneys and operatives, Fusion GPS, Glenn Simpson, Christopher Steele, his company, third-party tech firms to look at the DNC servers. Thank you, Tammy. And thanks, everybody, for watching. The ride ain't over. God bless you. Thank you so much, as always, for your kind words. And thank you, as always, for watching. The ride ain't over. Thank you. And everybody here, Eric, Luke, everybody here, Jason, thank you so very, very much. The issue, ladies and gentlemen, is that law enforcement, in this case, the top law enforcement agency in the country, when they want to be political, they can be political. It's interesting how Democrats don't realize that the Federal Bureau of Investigation engaged in very, very questionable and corrupt conduct during the civil rights movement in the 60s and the 70s. And it's interesting how Democrats and wonderful, highly educated, morally superior liberal Democrats don't realize that just because an appeal to authority, if you say, well, the Federal Bureau of Investigation found this, okay, why did they, like, usually you assume that they're not trying to go after a political opponent. You assume that. That's the assumption here. The assumption is that a government agency isn't going to be leveled at an incoming candidate. Okay? The problem, however, is that it was. And we learned that more so from this trial than anything else. So that, like, when Politico publishes an article stating, with the headline, Durham has already won in that there's the fact that we had a trial to begin with justifies all the suspicion. Like, everyone is suspicious for a reason. They're suspicious for a reason because Trump and everyone around him was investigated for no purpose. There was no purpose. It wasn't national security. It wasn't. Opposition research and national security are two different things. Opposition research and national security are two different things. They have nothing to do with one another. Absolutely nothing to do with one another. And if they want to say, well, it's only opposition research and Republicans do it too, but Republicans don't begin investigations within government agencies. So you have to ask yourself, how did these government agencies, or why did these government agencies start investigations based on opposition research purchased by Trump's direct political rivals? That's the issue. That's the issue. The issue is, why were they allowing attorneys like Michael Sussman to just funnel information into government agencies without a shred of evidence? They just made things up. The Central Intelligence Agency found it was user-created. So you have to ask all these questions because you can't allow this. Like, they talk about democracy, but this is the antithesis of democracy. He lied to the there's no doubt he lied. The issue is that there might be an acquittal because the jury might believe that that James Baker, the top legal counsel at the Federal Bureau of Investigation, didn't care whether he lied or not. That's the problem, ladies and gentlemen. That's the problem. The issue is that they might not believe that Baker truly was duped. And they might not believe that Baker was duped, thank you, Danny, because they were all in on it. See, if you want to, like, what Durham is up against is the following. John Durham didn't realize how corrupt, he very likely didn't realize that their defense would be, the Federal Bureau of Investigation is so corrupt, so how could they be duped? That's the defense. .com, hello. That's the defense, ladies and gentlemen. The defense is the following. The Bureau is so corrupt, how could James Baker be deceived or tricked or duped? Of course Sussman didn't lie to Baker. Baker knew. That's how messed up things are. Okay? You don't get this luxury, by the way. Like, Trump doesn't get this benefit of the doubt. Okay? Could you imagine the outrage and indignation if government agencies were used to investigate Democrats and actually investigate Democrats, not, James Comey saying, oh, gee, there was no intent. Could you imagine? Could you imagine if that happened? So when people, like, the interesting thing is, if there is an acquittal or hung jury, okay, if there's a conviction, fantastic, okay, then you move on to the next trial. But if there's an acquittal, or if there's a hung jury and then a mistrial and then a retrial, Democrats will then jump for joy saying, oh, look, you know what? They found nothing. And in doing so, they'll highlight exactly what Durham found. Initially, media will say, oh my goodness, there's an acquittal. Oh my goodness, again, they found nothing. They found nothing. They found nothing at all. It was a complete waste of time. Meanwhile, these are the same people who think that the Mueller probe was amazing. The Mueller probe literally found nothing. The Mueller probe was tasked with finding Trump and political operatives who were working with the Kremlin. That never happened. The Mueller probe was an absolute catastrophic, monumental failure of epic. Can you hear me, ladies and gentlemen? Ladies and gentlemen, can you hear me? Sorry about that. So, how's the sound? So, really quickly, you know what? We'll do this right now. So, here's... let's create a poll. Here's the question. So here's a question. Will media accidentally highlight? Okay, so here, how will media respond to a possible acquittal? Mindless mindless coverage, or okay, here's the question, and it's an interesting. I don't know if I how will media respond to a possible acquittal? Mindless coverage, which is like the basic, it's the basic, like, oh, you know, the Durham probe, there's no reason for it, or accidentally proving Durham's worth. So what they'll do is the following. They'll accidentally, while they're pontificating and preaching and jumping up for joy and stating that Trump, we shouldn't have had a Durham probe to begin with because there was an acquittal, they're actually going to highlight the fact that Sussman didn't lie because James Baker was in on it along with Sussman. Or will there be just mindless coverage where they don't even highlight that and they're actually afraid, they're actually smart enough? Will media be smart enough to realize that if they jump for joy too long, people will ask, well, why wasn't there a conviction? And then they'll find out, oh, there wasn't a conviction for this reason. If there's no conviction, it's because James Baker was in on it. That's the problem. That's the problem, ladies and gentlemen. If James Baker is in on it, if the Bureau is in on it, well then, that's a huge problem. If government officials are in on it, if they are actually part of setting up and framing Trump, you can't have a Democratic Party and then a Democratic Party at the Federal Bureau of Investigation and then a Democratic Party at the Central Intelligence Agency. The Democratic Party is not national security. The DNC emails could be, let's put it this way, the RNC emails could be obtained by any other country, and that's not national security. That's an issue with the RNC, the Republican National Committee, making sure another country, or making sure that its cybersecurity protocol or, its servers are protected. The DNC and the RNC are private entities. They're corporations. They have nothing to do with national security. Zero, nothing. So why make one political party? Like, how did the Democratic Party merge with intelligence agencies and national security? Okay, few people, like a number of people are asking that question, but very few people really ask that question. The thing is, Sussman, if he's, let me ask you this. Okay, so let me ask you this. Here's another question. So, mindless coverage. All right, so here's another question. Okay, I want to know what people think. Okay, so give me your thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. I am interested to see your thoughts. Will Sussman be convicted or acquitted? Because the conviction should be obvious. Oh, I put yes or no. Oh, man. Okay, hold on. Let me end poll. Let me end the poll. Okay, hold on one second. Okay, so hold on one second. All right, so give me your thoughts. Okay. Come on, people. I need you. 492 people here. To my super chat, thank you so very much. As always. Convicted or acquitted? The man was an operative of the Democratic Party and Clinton campaign. It's pretty unbelievable how morally superior, wonderful, liberal Democrats and the far left are just okay with that. It's unbelievable. And then they're the ones who preach about morality. I have no clue I mean, there should be a conviction. There should be a conviction. If the jury is only looking at the facts show that he should be convicted. There's no doubt about that. He lied. If there's an acquittal, it's because if there's a hung jury and a mistrial, it's because one or two or three people within the jury think that the Bureau is so utterly corrupt that of course you couldn't deceive James Baker, the top legal counsel. He was under criminal investigation himself. They're all under criminal investigation. What they do is they investigate themselves to say that they didn't do anything wrong, which is hilarious because it's like, well, you engaged in a crime, but then you investigate Clinton for servers with top secret intel, and you say, oh, there was no intent. It's like, what? There's not an American in the world that would get the benefit of the doubt of that treatment. But see, like, Democrats don't care. When I brought this up in 2016, oh my God, you had all the usual suspects with 1 million to 4 million sub channels going to bat for Madam Secretary because they were just vote blue no matter who. They don't really care about, like, actual right or wrong. These people are, like, programmed. You have people who pretend to be, like, these far left, like, or these, like, liberal, like, wonderful, firebrands, or, like, these people, these vanguards of justice and, like, truth and morality. And it's like, they only care about vote blue no matter who. They're, like, programmed. They don't care at all. And by the way, I want a Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump 2024 or a Hillary DeSantis 2024. I want to see everyone who defended Clinton in 2016, everyone who said just vote for Hillary over Trump. You have to do it. I want them to do the same thing again. Please, God, please, please. Hillary, Trump, or Hillary DeSantis 2024. I want to see them twist themselves into pretzels yet again, like in this Gumby-like pretzel state of complete irrationality, while they're claiming to be extremely moral and just and rational. I want them all to say, vote for Hillary Clinton again. This is what I want. And also, I mean, from a Democratic Party perspective, she's a million times better than mashed potato brains, which is not any solace to anyone who wants a country that functions. But nice. Convicted 63%, acquitted 37%. The conviction is certain if the conviction is certain if the jury only and the court only looks at the text message, the billing records, and James Baker's 100% confidence testimony. So James Baker was 100% confident that Sussman was lying. Okay, if you're 100% confident that Sussman was lying, that is all you need to know. The testimony from James Baker will be what convicts Sussman. If Sussman is convicted, and I think the odds are he gets convicted, but again, there's a pretty good chance of an acquittal because you have a number of Democrats that gave money, and I don't know how that jury, like, how on earth did they get that jury? How on earth? You have people who, I think one donated to AOC. You donate to AOC, you're basically a tiny bit to the left of Joe Biden. Tiny bit. Because AOC, at the end of the day, like Jimmy Dore and others have stated, Jimmy Dore wanted to vote for a Medicare for all plan. Medicare for single payer on the House floor. They didn't want, do you understand how much of a racket the Democratic Party is? They won't even vote for Medicare for all, and they pontificate and actually gain money from donations to their organizations, to their PACs. It's interesting. AOC had a campaign finance violation linked to a number of people that you know, actually. Hilarious. But these people raised money on the notion that they would eventually pass Medicare for all. Then, when Jimmy Dore, who is awesome, I respect him greatly. When Jimmy Dore, and I probably disagree with him a little bit on politics now, but I respect him greatly. When Jimmy Dore wanted a vote, like, this is the racket. You have to understand the racket. When he wanted the Democratic Party to actually vote, when AOC, who made her name on these policies, they wouldn't even vote on a Green New Deal. They thought that it was absurd. So McConnell, which was hilarious, said, let's vote on it. Now, I'll call your bluff. Let's vote on it. And they wouldn't even vote on a Green New Deal. They wouldn't vote on Medicare. They have the House of Representatives. Democrats have the House of Representatives. They have the House of Representatives. Okay, they've had the House of Representatives since 2018. They have achieved literally nothing. They did not pack the courts or abolish the filibuster, abolish student loan debt, implement a Green New Deal legislation, pass Medicare for all. They literally failed on everything, like literally everything. Then when Jimmy Dore, like, I think it was called Force the Vote, they wouldn't even vote on it. They wouldn't even vote on it. They said, well, there's not enough support. Then suddenly, these idealistic, left-wing, progressive, wonderful, morally superior people said, we're actually political consultants now, and, we'll just find out how unpopular our policies that we've preached about for 20,000 years are. So we don't want the world to know. It wouldn't be good from a political perspective. Like, what do you know about politics? All you know about is a racket. All you know about is a racket. You lie to people. Then, while they're lying about Medicare for all, they're saying that Trump worked with the Kremlin. These people are the biggest liars of all time. While they're lying about Medicare for all and a Green New Deal legislation, deceiving impressionable voters, because we know if you vote for Trump or if you don't vote Democrat, you will lose all your friends and family who will have to disown you. I can't be your friend anymore. You're voting for Trump. And half of that is they'll lose their friends if they're friends with you. So they don't have any like morality or ethics when it comes to friendship. They're like completely like lost their minds in terms of, rational thought and critical thinking. And so they're going to disown you if you vote for Trump because they know that they would be disowned if they were caught being friends with you. So then there's like this like 8th grade peer pressure, this middle school peer pressure thing where they can't be known as somebody who's cool with a person who's okay with Trump. Because Trump, he was installed by the Kremlin and he opposes Medicare for all and he says mean things. So we'll side with the Lincoln Project people. The Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld people. The same people who don't want Medicare for all and who don't want a Green New Deal and all of these fantasies. These are Green Party fantasies. These are Green Party fantasies. I learned this. I used to be the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post, long before Elizabeth Warren ran to cut Bernie's movement in two, okay, which became a gigantic bowel movement. And then he had to unendorse who gave him, a whole bunch of, anyway, he had to unendorse somebody because somebody wrote negative or actually horrible bigoted writing. And then he had to unendorse because Bernie first endorsed him, then unendorsed him. And that's how the left goes. They're unendorsing each other, disowning each other, accusing each other, and lying all the way through. So at the end of the day, the Durham Probe Special Counsel, whether there's an acquittal, a hung jury, mistrial, and a retrial, or a conviction, it really doesn't matter for the long term. Igor Danchenko, the subsource, that trial is coming up. He'll almost certainly be convicted because he doesn't have the luxury of being part of a big law firm, like a DC law firm, huge law firm. They got donors. They have like literally Democratic donors voting on this. So there could very well be an acquittal because the problem is, like I said, was James Baker a Trump supporter? Or no, I'm sorry, was James Baker trying to get Trump like everyone else? Or was he really deceived and duped by Sussman? Now, of course, he wasn't deceived and duped. That's the issue. And then John Durham is actually finding this out the hard way. John Durham did not know the extent of the corruption. So he said, well, I'm just going to have a slam dunk, easy case. He did not know the extent of the corruption. He did not understand the extent. So what happened was John Durham said, well, we're just going to have an easy, a very simple, we'll have a very simple slam dunk, easy case. He obviously lied. There's a text message with Michael Sussman stating that he's coming on his own, not on behalf of anyone else. The testimony from James Baker stated that he was 100% confident that Michael Sussman, the Clinton attorney, lied to him. The billing records show Hillary for America. He goes to Staples and buys thumb drives. The billing records show Hillary for America. It's pretty clear cut. There's not a problem here. It's pretty clear cut. But here is the issue. The judge told the jury the following, that they have to only look at the meeting. They cannot look at the billing records, and they cannot look at, they can look at the billing records and they can look at the text message, but they can't base their final decision They can't base their final decision on either the text message where he overtly lies or the billing records. They can't do that. They have to. And by the way, 721 people, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not subscribed to this channel, hit subscribe right now, ladies and gentlemen. And also, subscribe to my stock market crash channel and my Bitcoin crash to 10,000 or lower channel. Not something I want to happen, but unfortunately it's going to happen. But, and to my super chat, thank you so very, very much. If you enjoy these live streams, your super chat is greatly appreciated. What the jury has to do, people who are voting on this have to really ask, was Michael Sussman, the Clinton attorney, lying to James Baker, the FBI attorney, during the meeting? During the meeting. Not before the meeting, not after the meeting, during the meeting. During the meeting. And so that's the question. Do you think, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, here, let's run another poll. This is kind of hilarious. Let's run another poll. And this will actually answer, did Sussman really did he really and so ask so answer this and you'll answer, Ronald, hello. Answer this, and you'll basically answer whether he gets convicted or not. Did Sussman really lie, trick, deceive James Baker at the meeting? Because Baker knew. Here's the issue. Baker knew. There's no doubt that Baker knew. There's no doubt that Baker knew. So, in terms of anyone else, Sussman would be convicted. But the problem is, do you really think that Michael Sussman, they're friends, for goodness sakes. They're friends. Friends. How many of us have them? Friends. Ones you can depend on. Sussman, did he really lie to Baker? No. He actually, that's the thing. I would put no. That's the thing. That's the issue here, ladies and gentlemen. He did. Of course he did. He lied. Of course he did. The initial lie was a formality. It's like performance art. It's like bank robbers texting each other, we are not tomorrow going to rob and going into the bank vault and finding some way to open the bank vault. We will not do that. Texting bank robbers. So the interesting thing is, if 40% of you think that Sussman really didn't lie to Baker, then here's the problem. If Sussman really didn't lie to Baker, he gets acquitted. So that's what I'm trying to say. Or it's a hung jury. That's the issue. And I think that, like, exactly, Zen, exactly. Baker pretended to be naive. Exactly. So he did lie. So technically he lied. But if you or me or anyone else was in Sussman's position, we would get convicted. The problem is that Michael Sussman is a Democratic, high-powered Democratic attorney, worked for the Clintons, worked for the Democratic Party. You're in D.C., and Durham was not able to, because of the statute of limitations, add the text message to the indictment. Usually they would have a superseding indictment. Exactly. When I stop, exactly. How could I lie when I've never told the truth? Exactly. So how can he lie when all these people were deceiving each other anyway? But they couldn't get a superseding indictment because the text message was obtained past the statute of limitations. So the initial indictment was leveled. the initial indictment was leveled before the statute of limitations. So the initial indictment was leveled before the statute of limitations, and what took place was they got they got the text message. They got the text message after the statute of limitations, so they couldn't add it onto the indictment, but it could be part of the consideration, which I think that a hung jury and a mistrial would actually be more likely than an acquittal. So a mistrial is very, very possible. A mistrial is very possible. You can go ahead and and then they'll retry Sussman. So, exactly, Herb, exactly. A mistrial, I mean, you could have an acquittal, and then if they could find some way to get that text message. But see, again, Michael Sussman is just one of these people that they're just part of the food chain. They're Splendogate, exactly. Michael Sussman is one of the many people involved in this gigantic scam. And so, if Democrats, if media highlights the fact that there's either an acquittal or a hung jury, a mistrial. If there's an acquittal or a mistrial, what'll take place is that media will jump for joy. The problem, however, is that they're going to inadvertently, as they usually do, highlight the fact. See, again, they're going to highlight the fact that there was so much lying going on. There was so much corruption. They were all in on it. The Federal Bureau of Investigation was in on it with Sussman and that law firm. Hello, Paul. And so, Dan, that's true. I agree with you. I think that what'll take place is it's likely. I don't know. I'll say this. If they look at the evidence, it's a conviction. If they only look at the meeting and only judge the meeting and they say to themselves, well, Sussman and Baker are friends, so they really didn't deceive, Sussman really didn't deceive Baker, then it'll be an acquittal or a hung jury. Cap, hello. And so that's the issue. But see, again, this is only the beginning, ladies and gentlemen. You have an opinion piece in the Politico stating that Durham has already won. Durham has already won because we are now finding. Well, we already knew this, but we're finding out under oath. The interesting thing is that Robbie Mook and Mark Elias and James Baker, the FBI and the Clinton campaign testified against Sussman. Does that make any sense to you, ladies and gentlemen? Does that make any sense to you? Does that make any sense to you? The FBI and the Clinton campaign testified against Sussman and his colleagues. So you have the law firm, the Bureau, and the Clinton campaign literally testified for the prosecution. And there still might be a hung jury and acquittal. Okay, the Bureau, the law firm, Mark Elias, the Clinton campaign, Robbie Mook, and you had Bureau agents in addition to Baker, and you had witnesses from Fusion GPS and the researchers, the tech researchers, and still Michael Sussman could be acquitted. Because the issue is, Wild Cajun, hello. The issue, ladies and gentlemen, is that there is so much lying and corruption and people hiding behind bureaucracy. And it's really unfair that the notion that everyone was in on against Trump, that could be used as a defense, is pretty interesting. That could be used as a defense. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine if your defense, and by the way, the defense went after the Bureau. I mean, they went after the Bureau. Okay, can you imagine though? And so it's interesting. Like, Democrats, they revere government agencies, but when they're like on trial, they don't revere those government agencies. So, Nurse Ratchet, hello. You have to ask yourself, Wild Cajun, my man, starting it off. Thank you. Wild Cajun, thank you so very much. Greatly appreciate it. To my super chat, thank you. Wild Cajun, thank you. Exactly, the ride ain't over. Exactly. They're all turning on each other. Exactly. It'll be a wild time, Tagle. Exactly. They're all turning on each other. And Wild Cajun, thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. To my super chat, thank you. I can't do this without you, ladies and gentlemen. It'll be a while, like, they're all turning on each other, but the interesting thing is, in this case, Durham is also going to find out that even if they turn on each other, it's not enough. See, John Durham is going to find out the following. Even if they turn on each other, it is not enough, because the corruption is so prevalent and accepted. Here's the interesting thing that John Durham didn't understand, because there's a lot of things, like, John Durham's the man. Like, he put a Bureau official in prison already. Like, he has dealt with organized crime trials, all these things. So but he never saw this. In Boston, there wasn't, maybe the Bureau there, well, maybe they were in on it also. Many were in on it with that individual that he put in prison. But here, you have almost everyone at the Bureau leadership in on it with Baker. So how could Sussman have lied? I don't think that he realized the extent of the corruption. Wild Cajun, thank you again. Thank you to my super chat. Thank you. I don't think he realized the extent of the corruption. I don't think, because this is the interesting thing. The interesting thing is that when John Durham, when he indicted Sussman, he didn't realize, when John Durham indicted Michael Sussman, okay, he did not realize that Michael Sussman's defense would be that the Federal Bureau of Investigation could never have been deceived because they were working with him. Amazing Colonel, hello. They were working with him. I don't think Durham realized that defense. I don't think he realized that the absurdity, I didn't think he would realize an absurd defense. That how can Michael Sussman lie when 32% of this audience, which all wants a conviction, including myself, like 754 people here, and 32% of this audience doesn't think that Sussman really deceived Baker? Well, what do you think the jury is going to say? If most of these people here support Trump or DeSantis or the Durham Borough Special Counsel or anyone other than Democrats. And we know that Trump was set up and framed, and that government agencies were utilized with law firms and opposition research companies to set up and frame Trump. And 32% of the people here, like, look at this is 196 votes. This is a very interesting poll. I have a new toy to play with here. George Rivera Jr., hello. Exactly. They were complicit. Exactly. But think about that, ladies and gentlemen. Now it's 31%. 31% of people here think that Baker wasn't really deceived. And so imagine what the jury is thinking. There's very likely one person or two people, at least on that jury, that didn't think that Sussman lied. Now, an acquittal, I believe, you need everyone to think that he didn't lie. So it could be a hung jury or a mistrial. Or it could be a conviction. I really don't know. I can't tell you. I don't know. But I think that it doesn't. I think that an outright conviction isn't promising just because of all of these factors and because the people actually. Well, if you look here, let's just read the question again. Did Sussman really lie, trick, deceive James Baker at the Bureau during their meeting? During their meeting is the important part. He has to, the court has to decide, and Wild Cajun, thank you so very much to my super chat, thank you. Wild Cajun has to decide, no, sorry, the jury, Wild Cajun, thank you. The court and the jury have to decide the following. The court and the jury have to decide the following. Okay? They have to ask, did the attorney paid by Clinton deceive Baker at their meeting? Meaning not before in a text message where he lies, and not before where he billed Clinton, at that meeting, which is so lame. But that's the issue. That's what they are told. Did he deceive at the meeting? So that's why I put in the poll, that's why I put, did Sussman really lie, trick, deceive James Baker at the Bureau during their meeting? It's actually, the during their meeting part is the issue. That's the issue. That's the issue, ladies and gentlemen, during the meeting. And I mean, 32% of people here don't think that Durham Baker was deceived. If 32% of the people here don't think, what do you think is going to happen at the jury? If we looking at this know that Baker wasn't deceived, that he was in on it, that this was all like some kind of, because of the way the political landscape was altered in the past 6-7 months, that Baker and Mark Elias and Robbie Mook and FBI agents and all of these people had to testify against Sussman, but at the end of the day, nobody truly believes that anyone was duped. There are two sides, Trump being the victim here. Like, Democrats will never in a million years accept the fact that, yes, Trump was a victim of a tremendous, injustice. He was the victim of a tremendous injustice. They'll never admit that. Media will never admit that. Media will say, well, it was national security. This has absolutely nothing to do with national security. This has nothing to do with national security. And the thing is, if you engage in a debate with a wonderful, morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrat, it would be like explaining quantum physics to them. It would be like explaining quantum physics to their eyes will get either glassy or they'll just get into this rage Like, they won't accept it. If you explain, hey, Trump was set up and framed. No, he wasn't. There's no evidence of that. Yes, he was. There were government officials. Kevin Kleinsmith pled guilty to actually falsifying documents to a judge. Well, and then if Sussman is acquitted, well, Sussman was acquitted. He was acquitted because James Baker was not deceived. That if he's acquitted, he's literally acquitted because he met with Baker, knowing No, he met with Sussman. Baker met with Sussman knowing that Sussman was going on behalf of the Clinton campaign. That's the issue. That's the issue. The issue is that if indeed, like there's no rebuttal. There's no rebuttal to any of this. Like the Steele Doss, like if you like, I know, like, there's people like, oh, I still believe that Trump was working with, he's friends with the Pooty one. And it's like, well, Mueller found nothing. Well, that's not true. We found out that there was a concerted campaign against one political side. Well, what was the campaign? It was really bad. What was the campaign? It was really, really bad. What happened? What did the other country do? Oh, they did lots of things. Well, what did the Kremlin do? It was a concerted campaign against Clinton and help Trump. What happened? What happened? Well, the DNC emails were obtained by the Kremlin, and then they were published, and then everyone knew that Bernie Sanders was cheated. Aha! What do you mean, aha? Ah? What? That Bernie Sanders was cheated and that we all knew because of the emails of the corruption within the Democratic Party? Yeah, see? Get it? That's why. That's the corruption within the Democratic Party. What does that have to do with anyone else? Well, we wouldn't have known it if it wasn't for the Kremlin. But we already knew pretty much what was going on. And when the DNC emails came out, I remember. I don't have Twitter. I don't have Facebook. But I remember that Democrats were jumping for joy. That's all you got? That's all you have? Oh, my God, there's nothing. Then they lost. And then they said, no, those emails. They can't type anything. They can't type anything via email without, like, the sky falling. The concerted I'm not blocking anyone. My God almighty, there's some things that, like, you can't say. So I don't block anyone. There's an algorithm that doesn't allow certain words or certain phrases or certain sentiments. So I don't know. But it's not me. But, like, these people, what they did is every single thing that's harmful to their political chances because of their corruption, like Hunter's emails, which are like deviant, like clear-cut examples of pay-to-play schemes. That was another country, don't you know? That was another country. Another country always wants you to know how corrupt Democrats are. Don't you get it? It's so easy to understand. And it's like another country. Whenever we find out the extent of corruption within the Democratic Party, it's really interesting. Like Sussman might get acquitted, or there might be a mistrial. Again, there could be a conviction, and I think a conviction is likely if only the evidence is looked at. Then a conviction is. If only the evidence is looked at, then a conviction is certain. If only the evidence is looked at, then a conviction is certain. If they only look at the meeting and nothing else, and they say, well, you know what, Baker was in on it, they were friends, and most of the Bureau was, really happy and ecstatic to, start investigating Trump on the Alpha Bank allegations, the absurd allegations. So, if that's the case, then it's a hung jury or an acquittal. So that's that. So 283 votes, 30% don't think that Sussman lied to Baker because Baker was in on it. It is a pathetic defense. It's true. I agree. But it's sad, and honestly, this would be a learning experience. Look, like I'm not predicting anything. That's why I'm trying to like do these segments. I'm not predicting anything. I want people to understand that no matter what happens, more indictments will come out of this because John Durham has learned a lot. He's learned that the corruption is so intense and so despicable that even a clear-cut case of an attorney lying to the Bureau isn't as clear-cut because nobody believes the Bureau was deceived. The attorney had a job, and it happened to correlate with the same job that the Bureau had, which was setting up and framing and investigating Trump based on any allegation. It's not about national security because the Democratic Party has nothing to do with national security. Nothing. The DNC, its servers, nothing. The RNC wouldn't be viewed as national security if the shoe were on the other foot. Lori, exactly. Exactly. Amazing Colonel, exactly. I'll be doing live streams tomorrow in the day and Tuesday in the day as well. I'll probably do a live stream tonight as well, so be here tonight for the live stream. But, so be here tonight, all 700 plus people, for the live stream this evening, probably around 8, 9 p.m. Pacific tonight. But it's like, if John Durham learns from this, you're going to see a lot more people indicted. You'll probably see former officials indicted. Ronald, thank you. You probably see former officials are indicted. So let's do another poll. Okay, so here. Will there be more Durham probe indictments regardless of a okay, no. So here. Will there be more Durham probe indictments regardless of what the verdict is? Yes, there you go. 95% yes with 20 votes. So 88 and 12. Exactly, the ride ain't over, exactly. So, oh, it needs a maybe? Okay. Will there be, I should have added a maybe, but will there be more Durham probe indictments? So 90% yes. So ladies and gentlemen, Wild Cajun, thank you. To my super chat, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a certainty that there'll be more indictments. I think that at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, the statute, the 18 U.S. Code 371 statute, that's the main thing. The 18 U.S. Code 371 statute. And here, let's just look at this statute right here. Okay. It's a general conspiratorial statute where you have if two or more persons conspire either to commit any offense against the United States or to defraud the United States or any agency thereof in any manner for any purpose. Now, the defense will be, oh, well, that can't be They can't be used because the United States government stated that there was a plot by another country. (18 U.S. Code 371 is the statute that Durham needs to just utilize now. (101 votes, by the way. Yes, 89%, no, 10%. So 90% of people think there's going to be more indictments. Watch this channel, ladies and gentlemen. This channel, there's a fantastic attorney, Robert Gouveia. I believe his name is Robert Gouveia. He has live streams where he reads the court transcripts, which are fantastic. And so he has, he's awesome. He's really, really awesome. By the way, if you're new to the channel, hit subscribe to this channel right now. We have a lot of fun, especially for the live streams. And subscribe also to the Stock Market Crash channel and the Bitcoin Crash channel. They're below in the description of every one of my segments. And this is the 18 U.S. Code 371. They did not have to, like, if the defense is, well, that's ridiculous because the United States government stated that the Kremlin wanted Trump. That is not grounds to investigate Trump, nor is it justification to accept any absurd data from people. So that is not justification to accept absurd nonsense. Like allegations okay, political research, opposition research cannot be used to investigate Americans. The same thing could happen at your work. You could go to work and you can have somebody write a dossier about you and give it. Okay? You could go to work tomorrow and then the boss can say, your supervisor or the boss, whatever, could say, we were given this dossier about you. Sorry, we have to investigate. And by the way, you're fired. You can't do that. A manager at work can't do that to his employees. You would sue the company. You can't use a dossier purchased by somebody that doesn't like you at work. So a dossier from somebody that just doesn't like you at work. You can't do that. It's kind of like it's kind of like you are utilizing the absurd allegations of an adversary, a political adversary, or a colleague at work, or anywhere, anybody who doesn't like you. It could be an ex-wife, or an ex-husband. Could you imagine? Could you imagine if your ex-girlfriend, or ex-boyfriend, or ex-wife, or ex-husband was able to give the Federal Bureau of Investigation a dossier compiled by Clinton people? Could you imagine? Could you imagine? I mean, like, it wouldn't work out well. And look, the thing is, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, I think we need for the top 10 most wanted list, or the most wanted list. We need against organized crime, or all these things. You need the Federal Bureau of Investigation for international national security issues, domestic national security issues, but you don't need them to be political. Once they start going into politics, we have a big, huge problem in our democracy. Once government agencies are utilized, and that's the 18 U.S. Code 371. Okay, you can't simply say that there was hysteria because Trump was because another country. You don't even and Durham could actually put all of those government officials on the witness stand. If you put Clapper on the witness stand, are you certain that the Kremlin obtained the DNC emails? No, we're highly to moderately confident. Are you certain? Are you certain, Ronald? Exactly. Nobody would say that they're certain because it literally doesn't say in the ODNI or DHS reports. It doesn't say. It doesn't use the word certainty. They're not certain. That's the point. That's the point. They're not certain. They're not certain. It's a high to moderate confidence assessment. So, 18 U.S. Code 371 is the statute. I wrote about that in The Federalist in 2019. I also predicted the stock market crash we're seeing. In October, in The Federalist. That article's below in every segment that I do on this channel, H.A. Goodman, and on the Bitcoin Crash channel, and on the Stock Market Crash channel. So 18 U.S. Code 371 is the statute that Comey, McCabe, Strzok, Clapper, Brennan, all of these people. You can't, look, it's not national security. It's very simple. It's not national security. The DNC emails have literally nothing to do with national security. And if the rebuttal is, oh, well, would you allow another country to interfere? The same people saying that would be so happy if the RNC was hacked by another country. They wouldn't care at all. They wouldn't care at all. They wouldn't even bat an eye. They wouldn't even care. An outgoing Democratic administration? Are you kidding me? An outgoing Democratic administration has intelligence officials that accuse a Republican candidate becoming president of working with the Kremlin, and media doesn't care because they're all liberal Democrats? Are you kidding? I mean, are you kidding? Wild Cajun, thank you again to my super chat. Thank you so much. Your support via super chat is so greatly appreciated, ladies and gentlemen. I can't do these live streams without you, so I do appreciate that. So to my super chat, thank you. And Wild Cajun, thank you so much for your support. It's interesting because Kleinsmith didn't get any time because he pled guilty. And the judge, I don't know how these judges are convinced into thinking these things, but the judge thought it was more of a clerical issue and not the intent to deceive. It's interesting, like, suspicion plays so much of a role in all of this. Suspicion. That's the whole point. That's why when Elon Musk purchased Twitter, and he'll revamp Twitter, the issue is, Twitter suppressed the story, the Hunter email story. The suppression of the information wasn't the purpose of suppressing the story. The suppression of doubt and suspicion. They wanted to silence, they wanted to prevent emotions. Propaganda is about emotion. It's not about information. The Democrats already know that they set up and framed Trump and that Trump never worked with the Kremlin and the whole thing was an absurd conspiratorial theory. They don't care. They're not suspicious of government, so they'll say, well, the government thought so. But they don't care about government when Trump is at the helm. They don't trust government. They trust government when it suits them. They distrust government when it suits them. But see, the thing is, it's about suspicion, trust, or angst, frustration, anger, resentment, indignation. These are the things. Like, this is what drives the Democratic Party, emotion. It generally used to drive the Republican Party. Okay? And then they spin it into thinking that, well, populism, the populist right, the Trump Republicans, they revel in doubt and conspiratorial theories. And it's like, well, yeah, there's an absurd message board that I was telling everyone 4 years ago was completely absurd and would lead to only dangerous consequences. You could see that on hagoodman.com. You could see the debate where I completely obliterate that absurd message board and anyone who defends it. But the biggest conspiratorial theorists are on the left. They're the ones who think that Trump worked with the Kremlin, which never happened. Look, exactly. If you look at what took place when Elon Musk purchased Twitter, how many are bots? What percentage of Twitter doesn't really exist? What percentage of Twitter? Are you kidding me? You can actually, they've done this before. They've done this before where you can actually look at, you could take a quote. You could say Trump is a menace and a harm to, the most harmful person to our democratic values in the republic. You could put that in quotes, and then go on Twitter and then search that phrase, and you'll find 50 bots, fake profiles, tweeting the same thing out. Not just retweeting, actually just tweeting it out for the first time. Okay? The whole thing is a propaganda machine. It's just a machine. And they utilize it to just foment emotion. When they say that Trump is an authoritarian, as they push to silence people, as they push never-ending counterinsurgency conflicts, and as they revere intelligence agencies, no, you're the authoritarian. If that's your vantage point, you're the authoritarian. But the 18 U.S. Code 371 that's the statute. That's the statute, ladies and gentlemen. 18 U.S. Code 371. And it's you have to wonder, why is John Durham waiting? I wonder that myself. My answers are he's waiting for the political will. The House and the Senate are going to obviously turn Republican. So pretty much every poll, you can go on everything predicted, whatever, any poll, Cook political report, whatever, 538, I don't know, 538 I believe says both. But you can look, and they're all saying that it's going to be Trump Republicans. That's what they're all saying. And really, the polls don't matter. If you could just look at the economy. Look at the economy and foreign policy. Why on earth would you vote Democrat? Why on earth would you vote Democrat? Is there any reason? Look at society. They're still talking about Trump being mean. It's the only thing they have. It's the only thing they have is Trump being mean. That's the only thing they have. And you look at the economy. The economy is in free fall. Inflation went down from 8.5 to 8.3%, and they were hallelujah, this is fantastic. We're in the money. We're in the money. What a feeling. They just it went from 8.5 to 8.3%, and suddenly inflation is just descending. It's now not an issue. I mean, it's like it could go to 8.7%. It can go back to 8.5%. It's actually a lot more than that. They had a tiny little public relations victory with the latest last month's was it last month or this month? I think it was this month's inflation numbers. A tiny little victory. Oh my God, they were so happy. It went down a fraction of a percent as they raised interest rates. So if it went down 0.02% or 0.2%, if it went down 0.2% with the interest rate hikes, it's like, well, what do you think's going to happen? Like the same interest rate hike, the same interest rate hikes, Blacksmith, hello. The same interest rate hikes are going to then what? Will lower it another 0.2%? What does that even mean? What does that even mean? It's like we are going to have we are seeing a terrible crash, but we're going to have the 1,000 to 3,000 point drops in the Dow. Unfortunately. And the Nasdaq's going to descend a lot more, and the S&P is going to descend a lot more. We're going to get to late 2019, early 2020 levels, because you had Target 50% drop in profit. Companies like the Dow Jones, the biggest companies in the country might not experience initially a huge downturn in profits, but most of the other companies, most of the other corporations are experiencing a downturn in profits. And if we have an economic, where's the growth? My question is, where's the growth? Remember the commercial, where's the beef? And I'm not sowing fear and uncertainty and doubt. There are better financial channels than me, or my stock market crash channel, the Bitcoin crash channel. Those channels are not they don't give investment advice, and I don't there are better channels to give investment advice, to get out of debt, all of these things. Then there are better channels on the stock market than my channel. There are better channels when it comes to finance than the stock market crash channel, the Bitcoin crash channel. I am not, I state on those channels, I state this is not a channel devoted to investment. Those channels are a direct result of my political viewpoints and a direct result of the article that I wrote in the Federalist in October predicting all of this. They're a direct result of my political. When you inflate a bubble and the bubble pops, people lose, corporation, institutions, stock market, retirement accounts. We all lose billions of dollars. A couple people in the comment section in my stock market crash channel and Bitcoin crash channel, they say they'll say, why don't you short the market? It's like, well, I don't want to open up a margin account and have to deal with a potential margin call if the market goes back up. The market could go back up the next month, 2 months, and then crash. What I'm saying is long term, I don't see, and I don't want to say this, but I don't see anything positive. I don't see anything positive in the economy, unfortunately. We're heading into a recession. Mashed potato bread. Oh, by the way, China could invade Taiwan, which is what I've been saying for a long time. I see them either blockade or invading Taiwan eventually, within the near future, within the next year and a half. And what will mashed potato brains Biden do? Absolutely nothing. Look what happened. Look who we're helping in the geopolitical crisis now. Literally everyone mashed potato brain Biden helps. It's a catastrophe. It's a catastrophe. He hasn't had a foreign policy achievement at all. It's been an absolute catastrophe. And you look and it's like, why is it so difficult for Democrats or Democratic voters to look and see? Like I've always said, you're never going to get an I told you so moment with a wonderful, highly educated liberal Democrat. It'll never happen. Never. All you'll get is the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court. It's like, well, you cheated Bernie Sanders. Look, at that moment in time, even though I support Trump and DeSantis, at that moment in time, Bernie would have defeated Trump. It might have been very close, but he would have won those states. If the Democratic Party media, that entire machine, backed him. Again, if I could go back in time, I would just, I would actually vote for Trump in 2016, not sit it out. But they did this to themselves. Democrats did this to themselves by cheating Bernie Sanders, then they complain. Well, it's like impossible, it's like literally impossible to, it's literally impossible to tell a morally superior, highly educated, liberal Democrat to look at the economy and foreign policy. Exactly, Shelley. They actually think the economy is good. They're like, look at the job numbers. Well, the job numbers went back to where they were. They're going back to where they were in the beginning of 2020, before Democrats and experts and media and highly educated, wonderful authorities pushed to end economic activity. Okay, they put that. If you look at the job numbers are going back to where they were under Trump. Okay, because you actually let the economy function for a prolonged period of time. Like, that's what happens actually when you let the economy function. Isn't that interesting? Isn't it interesting how when you let an actual economy function without ending it, for a short or prolonged period of time, arbitrarily because some maniac says you need to do so? Isn't it interesting how it actually functions? Wow. This comes as like a major surprise to Democrats. They don't realize this. They're like, oh, look at the job numbers. Well, look at real wages down, well over 3%. And then they were talking about real wages with Trump not going up enough. Real wages were up with Trump, not down, up. Up. The rebuttal was they weren't going up as high as wages. Well, wages are going up, but real wages are going down. Randy, thank you. I'll have another, Debbie Wasserman. Thank you, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Thank you so very much. Yes, I'll have another one. It's fantastic. I love it. Every 4 years. Every 4 years. Give me another one. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. May I have another? It's my Bernie Sanders for the day. But you will absolutely never get you have to ask yourself, why can't they admit, they will never admit that mashed potato brains Biden is like a catastrophe. Exactly. Lance, exactly. Their response is buy an electric vehicle. It's like, well, what? Not everyone has the money right now to spend 60 grand or 70 grand on an electric vehicle. Furthermore, you might want a vehicle that isn't susceptible to power outages, okay? Or a vehicle that, might not run out of energy or fuel, or a fuel source, or electricity while you're in the middle of the road. Or a bigger, stronger vehicle that lasts longer, larger vehicle for the family. It really doesn't, Jeff Patriot to my super chat, thank you. Jeff Patriot, thank you. Greatly appreciated, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff Patriot. Thank you. Hope all is well. Hope everybody here is having a great weekend and hope you have a safe, wonderful weekend, everybody. Thank you, Jeff. Greatly, greatly appreciate it. To my super chat, I can't do this without you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. To my super chat, thank you, Jeff. Thank you so very much. Greatly appreciate it, Jeff. But they're like, well, just get an electric car vehicle. Get a Tesla. Oh, and then you get, this is hilarious, Jeff, everybody here, you get, I'm not getting a Tesla anymore because Elon Musk is mean. So, they're like, I'm not buying a Tesla. It's like, what? I thought you were going to help the planet. It's kind of sad also, like in Southern California, like you're seeing like just like, the charging stations, they light up. There's like 2 of them. There's like 2 charging stations at like, a supermarket or the library or a Rite Aid. And I'm like, there's 2 charging stations. There's 20 million cars. There's 2 charging stations. What am I supposed to do if I need to charge my car? And by the way, I don't want to charge for like 10 minutes. Are you kidding? I don't have 10 minutes during the day to charge, like, what a pain in the rear end. But it's like this is like, the rebuttals are always nonsensical because at the end of the day, like I said, it really doesn't matter as long as Trump isn't tweeting. That's why they had no problem with Mitt Romney, Mittens, or the Lincoln Project because they're the same people. They're like, oh, more counterinsurgency conflicts and, revere the intelligence agencies. Like, Trump doesn't care about any of that stuff. He doesn't want any of that stuff. That's why he went after Liz Cheney. He went after Liz Cheney. He was like, he went after Liz Cheney and basically told the truth. Trump tells the truth. Does he engage in hyperbole? Yes. Does he lie? Yes. Does he lie as much as Democrats? No, not even close. No. Does he tell the truth about major issues that Democrats lie about? Yes. Yes. They're like, Trump lies so much, he's a liar. All you do is lie. That's all you've done? That's all you've done for 5 years is lie. That's why they're like, oh, Kinzinger and Cheney are good Republicans. It's like, no, Kinzinger and Cheney almost certainly don't believe. Like, they actually side with Trump on major issues. Well, not foreign policy, so that's the difference. That's the difference. The difference is foreign policy. The difference is foreign policy. So, they don't side with Trump on foreign policy, so, it's kind of like, when you look at Trump, Democrats and people who don't like him and people who are very intelligent, they can't separate the media backlash. The media response to Trump is contrived, and it is a consequence of liberal Democrats who happen to be journalists, not journalists who happen to be liberal Democrats. Okay? You have, the media response is completely apoplectic and hysterical, and you don't, the people who judge him, yeah, you can judge and look at him based on his personality because he feeds off of it, but if you take a moment to look beyond the theatrics, Trump's actually a very good president, has very good policies, generally. There's some policies there was one immigration policy in particular I was against. It was very wrong. Very wrong. But he ended that. And by the way, there are those policies with Democrats also. What happened under President Obama was worse. It was even more atrocious. It was even more atrocious. And it's like it's like you look at what's taking place in the country. The one thing Trump needs to do, and he needs to do this quickly, is communicate specific policies. Not just like DeSantis and Trump needed to do that. Not just, hey, we're not Democrats, which is definitely a good thing, which actually is a policy in and of itself. But he needs to say, okay, we're going to reverse Biden's policies on oil and gas, which impact the price of oil and gas. We will reverse that immediately. In Congress, we'll reverse that, and in the presidency, we'll reverse that. That alone is going to change things. That alone will change things and help the economy and help your pocketbook and lower inflation. Like you can't come into the Oval Office trying to decarbonize the economy. You know, you talk about decarbonizing the economy. And it's like, well, but you just ended economic activity and supply and demand projections were completely off. And you've obliterated supply chains. So now we're on the brink of a recession. Like, we're on the brink of a recession. Like, I love how media doesn't talk about this because of our actions 2 years ago. Do you think if Trump had a second term, we would be in a recession now? There's no way. I mean, yeah, there's no way. There's no way at all. There's no way Trump would have, if maybe the economic growth wouldn't have been, profound, but there's no way we'd be in a recession. We're in a recession now because mashed potato brains Biden and Democrats had a bucket list of things they wanted to do, and that had nothing to do with actually growing the actual economy. It had nothing to do with actually growing the economy, which is what, needed to happen. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been absolutely amazing. Wow, we reached almost 800 people. I think we reached 800 people at a point. I will be back in a couple of hours. I will have a live stream tonight, so be here tonight. I'll have some very, very important segments on the Stock Market Crash channel and the Bitcoin Crash channel right after this, so subscribe there. And be here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. To my super chat, thank you so much. I can't do this without you, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be back, ladies and gentlemen, later tonight, so be here for the live stream. Thank you, everybody, and hit subscribe.